Welcome to Conversations with EMU. I'm Claire Otley. Guidance Counseling Week shines the spotlight on the contributions of school counseling professionals to the educational, social, personal, and career development of students. School Counselors offers influential support to our students' mental health and their overall well-being. As school counselors prepare to celebrate their week of activities, Monday 6th to Friday 10th February, we hope today's episode will increase the public's awareness on the scope of the programs and services that are offered. Joining us for today's conversations are school counselors, Miss Tracy Watley, Keon High School, Mrs. Evelyn Huggins Forbes, Sadler Secondary, and the coordinator for school counselors, Mrs. Sasha Gay McDermott. Before we go into our conversations, Miss Watley, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Miss Watley and I'm a school counselor at Keon High School, and I have been a counselor for the past 10 years.
Mrs. Forbes?
Hi, I'm Evelyn Huggins Forbes, like Miss Watley said, and I am currently assigned as school counselor at the Sadler Secondary School. I've been a school counselor for the past 11 years. 11, yes.
Oh, yes. Good morning. I'm Sasha Gay McDermott and the coordinator for guidance counselors in St. Kitts. I have been a school counselor or in the field of school counseling for over 14 years. It's something that I'm passionate about, something that I love, and I think that counselors have been making a significant contribution over the years, and it's really good that we have an opportunity to share.
That's awesome. We have with us a panel of professionals with over 30 years combined experience. Let us get into the crux of the matter. Who are guidance counselors? Anybody could answer. Who are guidance counselors?
Okay, well, guidance counselors are professionals in the school setting, primary school, secondary school, tertiary level, who organize and manage the school counseling program that would be designed specifically to meet the needs of their target population, which are their students. The program generally consists of programs that will meet the academic needs of the students, support the career development of the students, and also support the personal and social development of students. So essentially, in a nutshell, that's what guidance counselors are. That's who guidance counselors are.
That sounds like a very, 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 very heavy portfolio for a guidance counselor.
Yes, it is. And just to add as well, as counselors, we are also advocates. A part of what we do is advocate for students within the school setting as well, in addition to what Mrs. Forbes would have shared.
Okay, there is also a new component to the school counseling program in terms of a leadership component that wasn't seen before, because school counselors are, well, we referred to as guidance counselors before, but now it's transitioned into school counselors. Now take a leadership role where it is that they actually work with the leaders within schools to assess the needs of children and see how they can help in an overall makeover of what is happening. And that is something that was not a part of the program before in terms of school counseling. So yes, we would have transitioned from just being just there to being to taking a more active role
Agent of change
within the schools.
What are some of the components of this counseling program that is being offered in the schools?
Okay, when we look at the counseling program, just like any other field within counseling and psychology, as school counselors, it is a component of that field of psychology. We cater to the needs of students primarily, but we also have to deal with other stakeholders. But a key component of the program has basically, Mrs. Forbes would have mentioned it, we have to look at, there is the planning, there is the development, there is the foundation principles that you have to look at, and there is also an evaluation process. But what this program really is assessing the needs of the students within the school, assessing the needs of teachers and parents as well. Then you have to go through all of those stages. But you're looking primarily at the personal development and social development of students. What are those needs that exist? And then you have to look at the career development, because that's a natural part of what we have to do as humans. You grow, you transfer from one stage to the next, you move on. And so you also have to look at the academic development, which persons sometimes don't realize that that's a key component of what we have to do. And when you recognize those needs, and that comes from consultation with these persons, engagement with them, you have to put these needs together, and you have to actually plan an activity, a structure, as to what is it that you're actually going to be doing in order to meet these needs. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what the program does, and it's something that all school councils are moving towards, so that it's something tangible that you can follow in terms of what is being done, the services that are being provided, and helping persons to understand how it is that we go about getting that done.
Okay, I realize that you spoke a lot about the needs of the student. So how do you go about identifying those students with those particular needs, or those students that are in need of the services of the school counselor?
Yes, you had mentioned what are some of those components and who benefits. It's a program that all students should benefit from. That may include classroom guidance, which is where you look at the needs that are general among students, and you can meet those students in terms of on their classroom. You meet them in workshops, in seminars, in special presentations. You have special invited guests that you can bring in to deal with specific topics or areas that you want to zoom in on. You have mentorship, you have career development programs, you have career development week, fairs, and I know that there are some schools that, in particular the high schools, I know that in the process of selecting subjects, that they actually have interviews with the students. They have assessments that they do in terms of their personalities, what careers work best, so that when they actually choose the subjects that they want, it's not just off the tip of their head. It's based on what are the prerequisites to move on into the career fields that they want. They meet with the parents to explain this process, how it works, how they can support their child in that developmental process. So it is a number of things that are involved with it. And as I said, every school counseling program, while there are similarities, will have differences, because the schools are different, the needs of the students are different. And so it's designed to meet those needs that exist within that institution.
How do we go about assessing the needs? A needs assessment is done, and the program is designed off of the results of that needs assessment. That's the base program, that is. However, the needs are not just for students also, because remember, we are using a comprehensive program, so it has to do with the needs of the parents, maybe the needs of the staff that serve the students, and so even within the needs of the community. So we actually give an actual questionnaire. There's a questionnaire for students, there's a questionnaire for teachers, there's a questionnaire for parents, in terms of actually getting to the needs of what is really required. And even though they are assessed, things come up, because we are fluid in terms of making adjustment when the program is done. One of the things too that is new about our program is that even within the primary school, there is an actual program, and not just, okay, they're just doing what it is that comes daily. So everything, we across the board from primary to secondary, there is an actual daily program that we go through.
Okay, Carl, this brings me to my next question. Well, initially I was here thinking the guidance counseling, does it cater to teachers? And then Miss Watley really did clarify that it caters to teachers. My next question, based on what Miss Watley has said, how is it organized at the school level? I know that Mrs. McDermott would have touched that. It depends on the school. But is there like a set guideline that schools follow, or they just twist it, maneuver it, manipulate it to suit the school settings, or is it something that is prescribed definitely? Mrs. Forbes, you want to jump in here?
Sure, yes.
All right.
So all guidance, all comprehensive school counseling programs should consist of 4 components. Guidance lessons that Mrs. McDermott would have described. That's where you meet general needs of the students. So you target them in class setting, workshops, seminars, those type of things. And then you have the responsive services. So these would include things like individual counseling. So a student may be referred for a personal or social issue, an academic issue, and this is the opportunity for the counselor to meet with them one-on-one, discuss the students' goals, and have sessions to help them to meet these specific goals that come out of the session. You have system support, which includes collaboration and consultation with teachers and various stakeholders, maybe parents, community members, administrators, whomever counselors can liaise with to assist them with completing the program or meeting the needs. So that's your system support. And the 4th component is, help me out.
You have the interventive services as well, where you may recognize that there are needs within the institution, or within a particular group of students or parents within an institution for that needs to be addressed. So instead of allowing it to just slide, you have to design something to intervene to make sure that whatever is happening is being addressed. And that the program is not, I want to add that it's not set in stone. So as you deliver it, as you're executing, as you assess, which is a part of what they have to do, as you deliver, you have to assess whether or not what you're doing is effective, or how can you tweak it to make it more effective and efficient as well. You tweak and you change to make sure that the needs are met in the most efficient and effective way.
Miss McDermott would have spoken earlier about schools offering, counselors offering services for students who are leaving 2nd form to 3rd form and interview with the parent. I must say that I was an experience of that, and I really like that. And I'm just looking at it in terms of, that's why the question was asked, how is it across the level, and if it is manipulated based on the school setting. So I think for parents of students at Keon High or Sadler's High, what we want to give a little insight into what is being done. Let's say their child is leaving 2nd form and going to 3rd form. You want to give an insight of how you assessed in that career development subject choice?
Okay, so at Sadler's Secondary School, we have a very similar practice to what was done at Bastia High, because I'm assuming your
Yes.
experience was at Bastia
At
High
Bastia
School.
High, yes.
Okay, so what we do is we start with an assessment. We do like a personality inventory to help the students identify their strengths, the areas of strengths, and what interests they may have, what careers they will more likely be successful at or enjoy doing. With that information, we encourage them to go home, take it home, discuss it with your parent, and then we give them an opportunity to come in to speak with the counselor along with their parent, and we have a discussion, so a one-on-one discussion to go through the assessment, career options, discuss prerequisites for local institutions and regional institutions, so that when they do make the decision to select their subjects, it's an informed decision. And what we found over the years is, since doing that sort of comprehensive, assisting them with their subject selection in such a comprehensive way, that we have less students asking to change subjects or unhappy with their subject choice. So that's how we do it at Sadler's.
Miss Watley?
Well, at Kent High School also it's similar in terms of the collaboration between parents, students, and teachers. But in now putting the comprehensive program together, it should go beyond that, because we understand that career counseling is a whole component by itself, and we don't have to wait until second form to start speaking about choices, because at that stage of your life, children are going to change what they want to become about a million times over. And so the program should stem across the whole school year in terms of reaching a child and talking about it long before there is a subject choice option to be made. And so that is what the comprehensive program put into place now. And I know we haven't been using it before, and so it's a work in progress, because different schools are accustomed of someone else having this job, and so now it's put there that the counselors, are the ones who are supposed to be organizing and leading it. It's gonna take a while to get on to others, and for me, I'm happy that we would have started doing this, because we would like people to see that choosing a career is important, because at the end of the day, it determines the quality of life that you have when you are an adult. And that is what we are trying to put into our children's head from a young age. It's more than just dressing up like your favorite or who you choose to, because we always have just doctors and lawyers, because they have uniforms that is quickly readily available. And so we look at what is happening, and we just manipulate it to introduce new careers into the conversation, and that is why the comprehensive program is important, because it goes from assessment. We should be liaisoning with the labor department, having that conversation. Okay, what is needed within the community? This is what is necessary, and so it takes a lot of planning from what it is that we do.
And just to add, in terms of, you had asked about the structure. Everyone, all counselors within St. Kitts have a template in which they follow, that have core things that they must include within it. When we mention the personal and social development, that's a component that must be addressed. The academic supports, the career development. But not because there is a template means that everybody is going to have exactly the same thing, because everybody's school is different. And so they have that guide, but they have the flexibility to make the tweaks, the changes, and develop their own programs. So they might need a mentorship program as a part of the comprehensive program. They would develop that mentorship program. Not that they necessarily do it themselves, but they might partner with somebody else, to provide that support. Children may be struggling and they need a homework support group. They may include that. Parents might be struggling in terms of communicating with their children. They might have a series of workshops or a parent support group that they establish in order to support or to meet that need. So it is structured, but it is also diverse in terms of its delivery.
All right. There is often a stigma associated with counselors going to the guidance counseling office in schools. What can be done, or what is the guidance counseling department doing to demystify that stigma that only certain children goes to the guidance counseling office, or guidance counselors in school are only for the troubled children? What about the high performing children? What can be done to delay, or, like I said, demystify that myth that only troubled people go to guidance counselors?
But one of the things that starting that we have encouraged counselors to do is to engage with the classes, not just when you have a classroom guidance session, but you do your walkthrough, you do your visits, whether it's during devotion time, have that conversation with the students, but also at PTA meetings, at parent support groups, whatever it is that you have an opportunity, whenever it is that you have an opportunity to share with stakeholders, to sensitize them to the services that the councils provide. And I have seen personally in a particular institution that has picked up, because children are just walking in of their own, and these are children from top stream to wherever stream, it doesn't matter, because they now are understanding that this support is there not just if you have an academic or behavioral issue, but you have other challenges that you need support with, whether it is grief, whether it is just interpersonal relations with others, or other things that they might be struggling with. So we see that that's one of the areas that all councils have been working on, in terms of engaging persons, sharing, sensitizing them to what you actually do. And we see that that is changing. It's a process, but the change has started.
Any one of the other counselors want to jump in here?
Well, for me, I think it's more of a cultural issue in terms of what we have, in terms of trust for counselors. And hey, I don't think we're gonna fix it anytime soon either, because if we're gonna think about their developmental stage in terms of being adolescents, there is generally a distrust for adults within their group.
Yes.
And so they are going to distrust and not want to say things, because of course they don't want to. They think you're gonna tell your parents, you're gonna tell other persons. It's just human nature. But as Mrs. McDermott would have said, is that you have to build a relationship with them, and that is what the school counselors are putting ourselves out there to build relationship, because I think that's the foundation of relating to our children, in terms of building relationships with them. So I don't know.
Mrs. Forbes, you're contributing or you're passing?
Well, I'll just have to say that I agree with both Mrs. McDermott and Miss Watley, and that is why with the comprehensive program, your presence in other capacities in facilitating classroom guidance and consultations, they get to see you in a different light, not just the guidance counselor who sits in the room waiting to hear your business, but a major component of the program. In fact, most of the time as guidance counselors should be spent outside of the office, engaging with the majority of the students, and then those type of activities help them to build the trust to come in. Yes, like Miss Watley says, it's a struggle. However, I do believe that students in the school recognize that the counselor is their advocate and is there for support. And like Mrs. McDermott says, we see now, to me, it has changed a lot since I was first hired as a guidance counselor. And more often than not, you see the students who are not labeled as troubled students. Those are the ones who come knocking on your door more often than those who are probably referred for behavioral issues or maybe other personal issues to some extent.
I think for them too is that they notice that you can keep a conversation outside of anything that has to do with emotions, and they'll be like, okay, so you know about career? And you know about this, and so it's about putting ourselves there for them, just to show that yes, we are human also, and yeah.
Based on this conversation, it's evident that the guidance counselors play a significant role in creating a safe space for students in the school. Tell us one brief example of a situation in which counseling helped to improve our life of a particular student. Anyone can chime in here. Just an experience, based on your experience, one example where being a counselor, you have improved the life of a particular student in your institution.
I think you need the student to tell you
Yeah.
change your life, but I don't doubt that
Sorry.
I think you would need the students to blow the horn. I don't want to blow our horn for us, but I don't doubt that we would have made changes in student life. If I can look back, I know there are a number of students that I would like to say that my conversations with them and my relationship with them would have, made them made a different choice, or change the path in which that they were going. And just the other day, one of them would have sent a voice note to a compass counselor that I worked with, and I guess he was going through that time in his life when he noticed, oh yes, well, this is what would have changed my life. And he was so grateful for the conversation and for that aspect in when he see where he was and where he is now. Yes, we do impact children's life in a big way. Some we would see directly, immediately. Some it takes 5 and 10 and 15 years, even though they would not say you made a help. But when you see them and oh gosh, that child just never behaved in school. And then 10 years after, you go in a particular business and you see them the prim and proper and looking at you, yes. And in your back of your mind, you're smiling because you would have helped in terms of getting them to take things a little bit more seriously. So I would think I just can't pinpoint one, and if I pinpoint one, then I don't want anybody else to feel bad. But Miss Watley did not mention me and that kind of way. So
And I guess too, given the sensitive nature of what we do, we have to be cautious in terms of sharing. But I can say that I started over 14 years ago, and I still have contact with students that I would have met then, who would have, relayed their appreciation years after and still make the effort to say, my life is different, and thank you. But given the sensitive nature of what we do, we still have to be mindful of how we share that.
Do guidance counselors work in the child's life stay in the school setting, or it oftentimes goes outside of the school setting?
Our work transcends just the walls of the institution. There are times when the work goes beyond even the working hours. That includes sometimes doing home visits where necessary. That includes having somebody, a parent might call you at 7 or 8 o'clock or on a Sunday or whatever time in the night to indicate, I'm having this challenge and I need some assistance. So it goes beyond just the four walls. It goes beyond the working hours. And I think for the most part, counselors have selflessly given. They may not come and say, I had to be on the phone or I had to jump in my car to go and visit this parent because of whatever was going on at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the night. But they do it. Many do, and that's not something that everybody will see, but it does make a difference. And the counselors give selflessly all the time in order to meet the needs of the students as well.
Okay. So, based on the needs of the student, what are some issues counselors experience or are faced with? What are your top issues that you have to deal with in the school setting or generally as guidance counselors? What are some of your top issues? Just for the listening audience to know. Oh, so they only.
I was just about to say that. So, like Ms. Watley would have mentioned earlier, each counselor will conduct, or each counseling department would conduct a needs assessment that would give the specific needs of that particular school. So, to generalize and say, what are the general issues?
Tell us about Sadler Secondary.
So, so
probably about three issues. About
you
three.
don't want anybody feel bad. You're talking about issues within
a particular institution.
Yes,
Not
let's
necessarily the
generalize.
particular institution, but as guidance counselors,
Yes,
you
let's
would
say
have
it's
a general
general. So it's not
meeting.
Sadler
Yeah.
secondary because let me before I say okay, my school has a drug issue. That wouldn't go down well. So let's say in
If you want
general.
the top
The top issues that as guidance counselors, when you have your sit down, your exchange of ideas, you would realize, oh my God, this is across the board in all of our schools.
So when we have to take into consideration primary school, high school, maybe even AVIC, CFBC, I mean, these are on their way out of adolescence. But one of the top issues that we can say that are common among all these students is the lack of parental involvement. That's a major issue that counselors usually have to contend with and have to design programs around. Many of the other issues that students face, they stem from the home. So I could say that's something that's pervasive among primary and secondary schools. There are many other issues, but I think this would maybe the overarching one. If parents become more involved, and don't get me wrong, we have some parents at all schools who are very much involved in their students, if their children are their priority, but at the same time, a lot of issues stem from lack of parenting skills, lack of parenting involvement.
How can persons support the guidance and counseling programs in our schools?
How can you support the school counseling program? I think in terms of making yourself available for when it is that we are looking for persons to speak at workshops or seminars, that is support that we sometimes we rocking our brains. Well, who can we get to speak? So just giving the school a call and say, well, I am available. This is it. These are the topics that I can talk about. Financial. That's a big thing for us. Or in kind. A lot of things that we can do with in kind, because a program like this really do need a lot of resources, and that is one of our main challenges that we have in terms of getting our programs at a certain level, because it's one thing to say put on a program or design a program, and then when you go, it's just some form of, you just have to do it mediocre because you don't have the resources that are necessary. And so that we encourage persons, just so you sponsor sports, the sports department, if you could also give a sponsor to our school counseling department or our guidance counseling department, that goes a very long way. Also in terms of parents, when we have to call, just don't see it as don't tense up and see it as though it is something bad, but we really want to help. We are your child advocates. We are your advocates by extension also. So when it is that we call, we are calling you for good, something that is good for your child, good for you. And so we would like you to support in that way form. But that's just from my end.
And in addition, another way to support the counseling department, we thrive off of collaboration. And it's important to hear from stakeholders, even when we come up with programs. What I enjoy doing, what I appreciate, is bouncing ideas off of the stakeholders, because in my mind, I may come up with a program that I think may be beneficial, but you as a parent or a teacher or somebody in the community looking at it from a different perspective, if you can give me the feedback, give me some ideas that maybe you should do it this way or that way. So even though, yes, we definitely need the financial and in-kind support and all those things, but sometimes we would also need ideas and physical power as well to execute some of these programs. It's very important because I think currently you have some schools, the larger high schools have 4 guidance counselors. Other high schools have 2. And then at the primary school level, you have 1 counselor, and some counselors have more than 1 school. So all of that to say that it's not a big department, but we often are required or expected to do large-scale events throughout the year to meet the various needs. So one major way to support, give your ideas, give of your time. That would be very helpful.
And also give of your resources where possible. That is a big support in terms of if you have the ideas and you're willing to lend that support, it's always going to be welcomed. You can liaise with the schools, you liaise with the Ministry of Education, and that can be organized in terms of getting that support where it is needed. As I said, the needs are different, the institutions are different, and so don't think that what you have to offer is not valuable. Make the consult, get in touch, and you'll be able to see how best you can lend that level of support that is really needed.
It's such a wonderful way to end this discussion. But before we go, we know Counsellors Week, as we said, is in February the 6th to the 10th. Tell us about it. What plans are in place for the students, for teachers, for the counseling department?
Okay, School Counsellors Week, as you mentioned, yes, it's February 6th to 10th. The theme that we're working with is school counselors helping students to dream big. And we know that's something that school counselors have been doing for a long time. Yes, indeed. On Monday of that week, it's actually School Counselors Day. And we are encouraging schools to show appreciation to their guidance counselors, in particular the administration of the institutions, to show tangible appreciation to their counselors. Sometimes even during Teachers Week, you're overlooked as the counselor because you're not a teacher. Yes, it happens sometimes.
I transition out of the classroom, so I still take my hat as a teacher very seriously.
Yes, but sometimes, those who started out directly in counseling are overlooked sometimes. So that's what we're encouraging for the Monday. On the Tuesday, we are encouraging counselors. It's open day as stakeholders, which are our students, parents, community members. Engage with your school counselors. You can walk in, you can have that conversation. It's a good way to share what you are willing to, how you're willing to support the program, the students, the parents. That's a good day to engage and to share how you're going to do that. On the Wednesday, it's trivia day. So the school counselors will be engaging their students in terms of helping them to understand what it is that they do, and also asking them some questions to help to sensitize them as to the services that are available to them at their disposal within the different schools. On the Thursday, we have an appreciation banquet arranged for school counselors where we can, spend a little time to say that we are appreciative of your service. You work hard, you sacrifice, and we see it. We appreciate it. So that's something that the ministry is working on. On Friday, we are looking at a self-care workshop because that's something that as helping professionals, we often overlook ourselves. You give, but you cannot pour from an empty vessel, so to speak. So, it's helping school counselors to take that step back, to rebuild, to recuperate and rejuvenate themselves in order to move forward. And that wraps up School Counselors Week.
Wonderful. We'd like to thank the guidance counselors and their coordinator for spending time with us this morning on Conversations with EMU. Do have a blessed day.